G'day, and thanks for coming here, the Quote on the Street. I am your koala host, Vince, and over there, throwing another shrimp on the barbie, is your grill host, Josh. So, Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing 100 times better after that intro.
You sure are.
You're getting good with these.
I've always felt like I had an Australian accent.
That was pretty good.
But doing the rehearsal for this particular intro, I think dialed it in quite a bit. So.
You were just listening to yourself and recording it over and over again.
Literally what I was doing just pre-record when I said I had to do some tests was this.
That's great. Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So in case it's not immediately obvious, we are Quote on the Street, and every week myself, Vince, and my co-host Josh will be coming to you with words that come from the puzzle word game Wordle. We choose one from each week out of the 28 words, and we talk about whatever the hell we can based on those. Today, those words are coming from May 22nd through the 28th, and if you want to see those, you can head on over to our Twitter at Quote on the Street, or our Instagram, maybe, and see what those are. So let's get right into the episode. Josh, you're starting this week, right?
Yeah, I'm picking up this week. First word, and for me,
let's go, because my brain is fried.
Hey, it's okay. Everyone has those days/weeks. But for this week, after looking through the words, it was kind of tough at first. I couldn't really pick something, and then it just clicked for me. So I chose phase. And it really made me start thinking about different phases in time or fads, and how things have changed throughout the years. So I thought we could go through some of the fads for each of the decades and kind of talk about the different things that have been trendy throughout the times.
All right, I'm into it.
How far back do you think we should start?
Hey man, it's your topic. I'll go with whatever you decide.
Okay, well, we're gonna start in the 1920s.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't say that I remember the 1920s very well.
Me neither. But I did some research.
Okay.
And surprisingly, some things that I didn't know started during that time. So Pez came out in 1927, the Pez candies. So yeah, those started being a real big fad. All the kids had them. It was the new cool thing, shoot the candy into your mouth and
that's
deal.
Definitely a depression candy.
Yeah.
Just put some sugar and a little bit of filler in there, and you got yourself a candy.
We also saw a huge uptick in jazz music during that time. So you got people like Louis Armstrong, really making a name for himself during that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, jazz is one of those art forms that sort of stereotypically, as I get older, I really get to appreciate more.
Yep, that is for sure. There's definitely some nuances in there that you really have to have an ear for to thoroughly enjoy it. So in the 1920s, we saw vending machines for the first time. Surprisingly, I didn't think it would have been back that far, but looking through it, I was pleasantly surprised. So Coca-Cola was one of the first to take advantage of them. And cartoon characters really started to flourish. So we saw Mickey Mouse from Walt Disney in 1928 as well. So the end of the 20s brought some things that have definitely held their own.
Oh yeah. You say that you didn't realize that vending machines went back that far, but I feel like that's in a lot of things. Especially us these days, we sort of take for advantage electronics.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this stuff could be done with, mechanical methods.
Yep.
I don't know. We're old enough to remember the tail end of the mechanical vending machines. You remember the cigarette vending machines where you put stuff in and you pull that knob and you hear a big ka-chunk.
Yep.
That's what they're talking about with vending machines. It's all mechanical.
It's the same thing as the quarter machines for the tattoos or stuff like that, where
Yeah.
you put the two or three or four quarters in, and then push the big lever forward, and when you pull it back, it pulls the card out for you. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like you just don't think about it. I don't
It's
know.
really amazing. It's really amazing what they could do with mechanical methods back then. What we lean on electronic methods to do now.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I thought you would enjoy this. Another fad or things in the 1920s was 1920s slang.
God, so good.
So we got applesauce, an expletive, same as horse feathers.
Horse feathers?
Yep.
Is that like
as
horse apples?
Applesauce. Yep, I'm assuming so.
Okay, I'm familiar with the slang horse apples is that like farmers use to call like basically like horse patties.
Yeah.
Like they would call them horse apples. So, it's the equivalent to bullshit.
Yeah.
Is this basically that?
Yes. They're referring to horse feathers as applesauce. So horse feathers has got to be another name for shit, obviously.
Wow.
And then the instead of shit, it's applesauce.
This tracks to me though. Like honestly, with the ridiculous slang that comes and goes, like this really makes sense.
I thought you would really enjoy it. Balled up, confused, or messed up.
This one came back. This one came back in recent years. Like this is something that I've heard recently.
Then baloney, as in nonsense.
Still use it.
Yep. Beat one's gums, which is a chatter. Somebody that just can't keep their mouth shut.
I like that.
Oh, you'll love this one. The bee's knees. An extraordinary person, thing, idea, the ultimate.
Yeah, this one hit in the 20s apparently, but it stuck around. Like people still use this one. I'm a amateur home bartender. Like there's a drink called the bee's knees.
Mm-hmm.
This one has staying power.
Yep. So does this next one, which I was surprised again that it started back then. Beef. A complaint or to have a problem with somebody. So, you got beef with them. That's when it started back in the 20s.
Yeah. I never really gave any thought to where this could have possibly come from.
Yeah.
I'm racking my brain right now to see if I could figure out the origin of this, but I am coming up blank. Do you have the origin of this?
No, but hold on, let's see. Apparently it goes back to old London rhyming scheme. Londoners used to cry hot beef, rhymes with stop thief, to raise the alarm in touch and go situations. Beef came to be equated with to shout, which eventually evolved to represent as we know it today.
God.
Huh.
Thank you, Cockneys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cockneys.
Then we got the big cheese, the most important or influential person or the boss.
Mm-hmm.
You'll enjoy this one. A speakeasy, an illegal bar selling bootleg liquors.
Okay, yeah.
And then it's funny enough, to piggyback right off of that, bootleg, illegal liquors. So the idea of bootleg started with Prohibition.
Yeah. These are a couple that I knew of, speakeasies and bootlegging. I knew that those started in Prohibition. But again, I guess I never really, I knew it like sort of subconsciously. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, like I know that's where they started. There's no reason for those terms to exist before, but yeah.
Yep.
You hit on a weird interest of mine, like very particular linguistics, especially when it comes to slang. Like
you'll enjoy this one then, I think, the most, and that's why I saved it for last.
Okay.
Says you, a reaction of disbelief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is straight up like a noir gangster movie.
Yep. Yeah.
Like someone comes into the hard-nosed, private eye. It's like, hey, it says you this happened. What actually happened, man? I nailed the Australian accent. I just bombed on the Brooklyn accent right there.
It wasn't ideal, but I give you a pat on the back for effort, sir.
E for effort.
Okay, so we'll move on now to the 1930s. All right. So we have the beginning of mini golf. So still kind of a thing that goes on nowadays, still a pretty popular thing, but I was surprised to see that started that far back.
Yeah, I guess there's no reason that it shouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
Like, golf is as old as time. Well, as old as the Scots.
Yeah.
So why not shrink it down?
Yep. We had the invention of Monopoly.
Yeah, to really show people the evils of capitalism.
Yep.
That's what that game is all about.
And jigsaw puzzles and drive-in theaters. So
yeah, a lot of stuff that people could do on a dime. 30s was the Depression, at least the start of the 30s.
Yeah.
So yeah, a drive-in. You don't have to go pay for a building to do air conditioning. You get 2 movies for 1.
Yep.
Ideal.
Yeah, it definitely was that case. Gambling tended to see its big introduction in the 30s, which also makes sense with the Great Depression, and once you're in that mindset of like, prohibition and getting everything withheld, like after you've already broken the law, that's easy. So I'd imagine they just started gambling and stuff in like the speakeasies. And
yeah, I mean, what else were you supposed to do? We're in prohibition. It's the Great Depression. You can't drink. You can't do anything that involves money except for try and take it from other people.
Yeah.
Man, brutal. I know my grandfather was born during the Great Depression, and I was like looking at his house, like his mindset all the way to the end of his life that was built up during the Great Depression was just, it was a trip. Like he didn't throw anything away. Everything had its use.
Yeah, well, I mean, people were really struggling. So when you got something, it meant something.
Yeah.
And the last, I think, notable thing that really happened in the 30s that I could find was the introduction of the zipper. So they started using that to replace buttons because it was cheaper to manufacture than to have all the different buttons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting piece.
Yeah, that is interesting. I like that particular point. Like, buttons suck.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. They're terrible. And then if it wears, like, if the fabric, well, like the buttonhole loosens up a little bit, then it always wants to pop out.
Yeah.
And just like, this is a very inefficient
I would say
to keep articles of clothing together.
Yeah, half the time when your buttons pop out, it's usually because the stitching has become loose rather than the actual buttons becoming loose. And I will say that currently a manly skill that people have neglected for
sewing,
20 or 30 years is sewing. Like, you should know how to sew a button back on. There's a reason that every single one of our button-up shirts comes with extra buttons.
And I think, I don't even know. Yeah, you definitely took it. But I think we might have been one of the last, like, groups of kids that, like, I had to take home and careers in school. So, like, we did sewing there. I mean, I don't remember it step by step, but I know if I had it in front of me, I could do it.
I don't remember learning any practical sewing in home and careers, though. I remember learning how to look at a stock sheet in the newspaper, which was great because newspapers became irrelevant literally 2 years later.
Yeah, before we finished high school.
And I remember how to sew, like, a stuffed animal, which is like, I don't know, you need to learn like these like weird tiny knots for sewing for them to be relevant.
Yeah,
like
thankfully
buttons
we have
especially
YouTube.
Like there's that's exactly it. YouTube is our savior these days.
Yeah, people take for granted, I think, that so much, and even looking back at these makes me appreciate it for more. Like, you can learn anything you want if you look hard enough.
Yeah, God forbid you had to rely on your one room school teacher to teach you how to do anything, how to dig a post hole.
Yeah. Let's move on to the 40s. So the 40s, beginning of this decade, it was like huge on like big bands. Radio was kind of like the lifeline for Americans during the 40s, providing news, music, entertainment, much more like television is today. The popular dance, the jitterbug, made its appearance. So I know
that, but that doesn't strike me as a 40s song.
Yeah, me neither.
So I don't know what the jitterbug dance actually is. I know what like the Charleston is, but that's from like the 20s.
Yep.
I don't know if I know what the jitterbug is actually.
Well, we will have to take a gander and see if we could figure out. Oh, so it looks like I found a picture of it.
Picture of a dance?
Yeah, it was like attached to it, so I'm actually looking it up now, like trying to see if I can find a video.
Okay.
Here I will share this with you. Let me know when
Let's see what we got here.
This is not a very good
No.
video.
As good as I can tell from the video, it's basically crumping.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah. Hold on, we're gonna just go straight to the YouTube.
You know that YouTube is the world's #2 search engine?
That doesn't surprise me.
Like literally after Google, YouTube is where people go to search for things.
Yep. Is that same scene? Oh, so that is the.
Okay, so it's just like a shuffle step.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Rock your shoulders back and forth a little bit.
Yeah. So the 40s didn't have too much. 50s, we definitely see quite a big influence start to creep in. So we had coonskin hats.
Davy Jones.
Sideburns.
Or Davy Crockett, not Davy Jones.
Yeah. I know what you meant, though.
Close enough.
Poodle skirts.
Yeah.
Letter sweaters. So like your school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Letterman's. This is, if you think literally, just think of Grease.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yep. Also,
like wall tires, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep. Then you had apparently this is when we first saw like the woman's suit start to be in, women wearing a man's coat and pants.
Okay.
So that
push back on this a little bit, but
yeah.
I can't remember what the movie is, but there's this movie that crops up on the internet every so often that it's kind of like a novelty. Like, how the heck could they have possibly gotten this shot in the 1920s on the silent film?
Mm-hmm.
But it zooms through like 5 or 6 tables at a restaurant. And literally there's 2 women sitting there. One of them's in a suit. It's one of those things that sort of seems like it was kind of commonplace at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
But then sort of fell out as these like puritanical views came into play after the First and Second World Wars.
Yeah, we start to see, I think in the 50s that we started to see a little bit of the mold starting to be broken for like, the traditional at-home women cook, take care of the kids. That's it. Like that's your role. I think we started in the 50s. You really started to see that.
It's weird because
it
kind of goes both ways because women in a lot of ways had a lot more freedom before the World Wars.
Yeah.
But gained a lot more freedom in different ways after, say, World War II.
Yeah.
When they had to enter the workforce.
Yep. Leather jackets is probably the last notable thing, which is like we said with Grease. I mean that.
Yeah.
That and that like DA haircut, like that slick back Grease haircut. Those are the 2 big takeaways from the 50s. And then of course you had, music like Elvis and stuff like that come out during that time. So like that whole rock and roll era started to really
rock and roll was
come to life then.
Certainly a sensation, something that's affecting our culture to these days.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I would say he's one of the first to at least of scale, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Because he
grew up in an icon.
Right. He grew up in a Black community and he sort of adapted a lot of their culture into his
style. Yep.
So like that's where a lot of it came from. I'm sure that it was around, but he really brought it to the fore and really made people notice it.
It's kind of crazy because like I feel like when you ask people, nobody ever thinks of him, and I don't even normally think about him in this manner, but like he really is a music icon. I mean, you think about not only was he just music, but think about like the empire that is Elvis.
Yeah.
Like he has, there's got to be 30, 40 different movies, I had to guess, from that era. Like, that's just crazy.
He's about to have a little renaissance too with this Tom Hanks movie that's coming out.
Yeah.
Like people are going to start doing this. Like, oh man, did you even realize that Elvis was so big?
Yeah. I mean, you don't really think about it, but he was like, I feel like for that era and for rock and roll, he's like the Michael Jackson of that time frame, just like polarizing.
Well, it's funny because it's, for that era, you can identify Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
But for the when they dropped the roll, the rock era,
Yeah.
you can't really identify even a single band. You can say the Beatles,
Yeah.
but the Rolling Stones were right there, giving the Beatles a run for their money.
Yeah.
Like there was a split, and there I don't know if there has been a single pivotal artist like Elvis since then that has caused a shift so big.
No, I mean, it was just massive. That's what I'm saying. Could be like, I can't even think of anybody that was that massive before him. Because I mean, like,
No.
To have that much like music representation during the time period, and then
I mean,
all the movies and everything he was doing.
Yeah. Literally, the Beatles is the only other possible comparison. The Beatles were only together for 4 years.
Yeah.
They made their cultural movement in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But right along with them were the Rolling Stones, and there were people at the time fighting Rolling Stones or Beatles. But there was nobody fighting like Elvis or who else. No, it was just Elvis or not Elvis.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's insane. The Beatles come close, but I still don't even think the Beatles are quite the cultural shift.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you. So quite the difference of things like between the 40s and 50s. It seems, which makes sense. I mean, you're a substantial time, into the Depression and starting to make your way out of it. So it's like,
well, even World War II, like there's an art form that crops up after World War II, the late 40s, early 50s, called Dadaism.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically absurdism. Like people, after seeing the First World War and then the Second World War, just sort of realizing that, what does it all mean? Why are we doing any of this? And then they would this is where abstract expressionism comes in. Like people just splattering paint on canvas to feel something, because you're just seeing like World War II, the height of World War II, like 1,000 soldiers were dying every day.
Yeah.
It's unfathomable for us. For anybody born after 1950, it's unfathomable.
Yeah. Yeah, just waves of people. And I mean, you also have to think like you didn't know that it happened, and probably until they just didn't come back.
Yeah. Yeah. There were lists that they would bring back to the shore, but if you weren't there to listen to those lists, you just didn't know until someone showed up at your door.
Yep. And how long was that from the time of it happening? You know what I mean?
I know, 1,000 people
it's
a
not
day.
Like today where like it happens, like they bring your body back and like the casket and everything, and like they have planes going everywhere. I'm sure it's substantially less time in between finding out it happens and the family knowing.
Yeah.
So it's like I can only imagine not even having it happen, but also the wonder of not knowing, because it was like you couldn't just keep in contact, or now there's letters and satellite phones, and depending on where you are, if you're overseas and stuff.
Letters back then, and if you had a boo who was very diligent in their letter writing, sending one every single day, you can expect one every single day, and then when they stop showing up, you have some inkling of what happened. But these days, everything happens so fast. News travels so fast. It had to be. It was
just
a brutal
completely different thing. It's like we can take it for granted. It's easy to overlook how good we have it in comparison in some ways. You know what I mean? Like obviously we still have all of our worldly problems that we're dealing with, but I don't know, something about.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't even know where to go to learn things. Like, how do you have an independent mind? It feels like it had to be so much harder to like be different than
then?
and dive into things that you like, because like you were just fed what you were fed, what everyone was fed.
Yeah. Well, we sort of experienced this firsthand, this exact thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, with the internet.
Not even that. Like when we were young, you got your musical tastes from the radio.
Yeah.
You had your radio station that you listened to. This is the way our parents were. You had your radio station that you listened to, and what they played was what you liked.
Yeah.
And if they didn't play it, you didn't like it. And we were kind of the same way. Like there was a little bit of the digital music revolution going on, which sort of informed where we went with our musical tastes in later life.
Yeah,
you know,
I would say so.
20s and later. But nowadays, musical artists have such a broad take, and you have artists who are collaborating with artists who are not in their genre at all.
Yep.
And kids these days have such a broad musical cornucopia to listen to.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's what makes society today more open,
Yeah.
but also a lot harder to relate to for people who are even 5 or 10 years older than us.
Yeah.
I have a hard time relating to a lot of the stuff that kids these days do, and I can't even imagine how it is.
I think if I didn't constantly work with people that were younger and like become friends with them, I think I probably wouldn't have as much of a understanding. But I would say that I'm definitely the definition of a child of the internet. I was playing online the minute I could, what I mean? Playing Call of Duty 2 on a janky compact Pisario laptop from my neighbor's Wi-Fi.
So good. It was such a good experience, though.
Right?
Maybe that's just my perspective of not having the internet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, come a long way. But like I had the minute internet was available and like the idea of endless possibilities being found, I just dove in head first. So with that being said, let's move on to some other things that came out of the 60s. So in the 60s, we have mood rings.
Okay.
Which were quite the rave when we were younger. I feel like everybody went through that phase.
I saw recently a mood ring toilet seat.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think that's the logical end point of mood ring.
Yeah, that's just perfect. And we have turtlenecks. So apparently that's when they started becoming a staple.
Nobody needed to keep their neck warm before the 60s?
I mean, I don't know. I guess not. I don't know. We have lava lamps. I still don't know if I mean, I guess the 60s were a big time for like experimentation. It was the beginning of like I'm sure drug experimentation and people doing stuff. So I guess I see the appeal, but I never understood lava lamps. Like it was never anything I was like, oh man, that makes sense to me.
So like I'm a big fan of Pink Floyd, right? Yep. So like if you ever look up like live shows of Pink Floyd back then, when they started to tour, it was a lot of this sort of stuff. They would literally take like a schoolhouse projector and just like put alcohol and water solutions on there so they didn't mix, and they would color them and swirl them around. Like I feel like this is the point at which that I have heard music is determined by the drug of the time, like lava lamps. The 60s, the early 60s into the 60s were the big Beatles times, right? Like the Beatles were incredibly influenced by LSD and lava lamps, and the sorts of Pink Floyd like overhead projector shows are like big. Like if you're on LSD, apparently this was what spoke to you, just like
that makes
abstractness.
Sense. I guess I could get that. I mean, I guess I can understand why it's appealing to them. It just never appealed to me. Funny enough, with people deciding to cover up their necks in the 60s, they decided to uncover their legs with the rise of miniskirts. So that's kind of a
high necks, short hemlines.
Yeah, definitely quite the mix. Thinking about somebody wearing a mini skirt with a turtleneck makes for a good time.
This is funny because like literally the only reference that I have for this stuff is media,
Yeah.
Like this is when Mad Men starts. So
Yep.
I'm just thinking of Mad Men, and it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. I'm into it. I get it. But I'm just thinking of this one particular media piece.
Yeah. Because I mean, you live so much time in that series of just like feels like the time period and being there with them.
Yep.
We move into the 70s. 70s, we saw the rise of disco music. So the groovy times. Got to get out there in your rollerblades and your disco ball, some music.
I'm a little fuzzy here. I'm not sure when funk stops and disco begins, or vice versa, I guess. You didn't mention funk at all, but I guess my instinct is that funk came before disco.
Yeah, it probably did. It's just not mentioned in like any of the stuff as being a big
Okay.
influential time, like
It's
thing of the time.
essentially just when white people take it over, huh?
Yeah.
The Bee Gees come out in the 70s and take over disco.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, and ABBA. Pretty sure
Okay.
ABBA was in 70s as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the extended European invasion.
Yeah.
Like not just Britain as Europe, but also Sweden.
Yeah, we had Mexican jumping beans, which I can remember having these when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
No,
These
definitely
lasted for a while.
Yeah, they were a thing. Daisy Dukes. I don't know if there will ever be a more brandable article of women's clothing. I mean, it's just synonymous with Dukes of Hazzard and that initial like attracted to bad boys kind of want to get their attention article of clothing. How that was used in the show. I don't know if there's anything that's more.
I can't say that I can think of another eponymous piece of clothing. Something that's named after one single person.
Yeah.
That is like this.
Nope. So had to be something crazy for it to, stick like that. I mean, it's crazy that it just took hold.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of what you were saying earlier, though. Like, if you're a person and you're getting fed what's fed to you, that's what you like. And there were literally however many channels.
Yeah,
and especially like at this time, like cable was just
brand new, so
barely
most people didn't even have it.
Yep. So it was all networks. Your major 3-4 networks. I don't even know if Fox came out at this time. 3 networks. Dukes of Hazzard were on those networks. It's what everybody knew.
Yep.
It's the start of our monoculture.
True. I feel like there's more in the 70s. Hold on, let me pull up this other thing. I had another. Oh, there definitely is.
It feels like there's more.
We have MASH.
Yeah.
Which is MASH. I mean, there's just so many iconic things. We have MASH, Bonanza, and Gunsmoke.
I'm not as familiar with Bonanza and Gunsmoke.
I mean, Bonanza actually started at the 1959, and Gunsmoke started in 1955.
Why is this list that you brought up literally not mentioning the wars? Like, this is what informs culture, right? Like, MASH is informed by the Korean War.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just I got Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, okay.
Y50, Jaws, Star Wars, Alien, Halloween, National Lampoon's Animal House. So
National Lampoon started at this time.
Yeah, this is a very we saw a lot of famous IPs start in the 70s.
Wasn't Star Wars was very late though, right?
77.
Like I feel like 77.
Alien was 79, Halloween was 78, and so was National Lampoon.
Okay. This is funny because I feel like I am getting a telegraph of what is coming in the 1980s. Like
right?
Late 1970s is sci-fi town.
Yep.
And the 80s is gonna bring in that synth, and it's gonna bring in electronica and everything electronic, and it's just gonna take over.
Yep. Which makes sense as we roll into the 80s. One of the things that was apparently pretty popular during that was breakdancing.
Ooh.
Which makes it, and boomboxes. So that makes sense with the whole music movement happening.
I think boomboxes are coming back. Like,
I think they will too. I mean, digital.
I think they are coming back. I think they are back with younger generations than us. Like these digital formats, not even digital. Like the cassette, was a revolution, but these digital formats are another revolution. Literally 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was in just like a small town up here visiting a friend. We picked up some Chinese, and as I came back, like there was this kid just walking across the street, just blasting this music. I'm like, what the heck? Does he have a sound system with him? It was just a JBL speaker.
Yeah.
Like Like boom boxes are going to come back. This kid had like a 400-watt JBL speaker just walking around. I can't imagine that in small town USA they're ahead of mainstream culture.
No, you're probably correct. I also, tend to wonder, so like I feel like the oldest kind of medium that you can remember is what people collect. So like people our age and a little bit older, I feel like it's super popular for them to collect records. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wonder if like these younger generations, if there's going to be people that start collecting cassettes the way we collect records.
Yes. There's a problem with that though, right?
Cassettes
degrade,
fade, or break.
They're a magnetic medium, and that degrades. Same with CDs. They're a digital medium, and bit rot happens, and CDs just aren't the same now as they were when they were first minted back in the even the 90s.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult with the newer media. I have a person on my route that collects records, and my instinct is that he's maybe 5 years older than me.
Yeah.
So but records don't degrade unless they're really mistreated. Yeah. Like you cut.
And I mean, they're analog. Yeah. I mean, they just don't. Yeah. They just sound different.
Well, I was avoiding that word because technically cassettes are analog also, but they're magnetic.
Yeah, but they degrade. So I mean, that would make it the more obsolete of the two.
That's for sure.
We had the Rubik's Cube come out in the 80s, which also makes sense when you think about like break dancing and stuff. I could totally see the Rubik's Cube being big. Then we have He-Man, was pretty popular.
He-Man, the Transformers, Strawberry Shortcake, G.I. Joe, all these shows that came out right before it was illegal to market to kids.
Yep. Yeah, we had like Back to the Future.
Ooh.
The Goonies, those start to take off. Spandex leggings, surprisingly, and leg warmers were big. Mullets and perms,
all coming back.
Parachute pants and hacky sacks, which that's one thing I'm surprising hasn't made its way back, or at least not that I'm aware of. But I just feel like hacky sacks would be a
hacky sacks lasted for a lot longer than any of these other things.
Yeah.
Leggings fell out of style. Parachute pants fell out of style. Hacky sack stuck around until the late 90s, early 2000s. And
it was at least 2007, 2008, because I remember buying them at Zoomies and playing with them all throughout high school.
We're seeing the resurgence of leggings and parachute pants because they've been out of style for long enough for, Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber to bring them back.
Yeah.
But hacky sacks haven't been out of fashion for long enough to come back, I think.
Yeah, that would make sense. The muscle tee was
That's coming back.
Pretty prominent back there, and that makes sense. Neon, it's the first time we started seeing neon in clothing.
Coming back.
Shoulder pads.
That's not coming back, thank God.
Jean jackets.
Never went away.
Yeah, did never go away. And I saved the best for last, but Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley came out in the 80s.
A singular masterpiece.
Yep. Never gonna give you ever. Actually, you know what? I was talking to somebody the other day about what might be the number one, like, most recognizable song. That's up there. I mean, I just feel like that's something that just about everybody knows.
Yeah.
That song. They've heard it at this point.
It's up there. I feel like people underestimate it because it's maybe not popular,
No, it's not a song you listen to, but it's in the internet and like meme culture. It's like an integral part of it. So,
and it was popular.
Anybody at the time. It was hugely popular, and it didn't even really pick up like hate and stuff until it started being the meme song in like the early 2000s.
I don't think people.
I would say
I don't think people hate that song.
I don't either. I just think it's they hate the meaning behind it, or maybe not even hate it. It's just kind of that is a good way to put it. I don't know if I know anybody that hates it. It's just kind of like. It's kind of like the musical way of getting iced. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if somebody rickrolls you, it's the same as them icing you.
I know. It's like,
You're just like, oh, damn, you got me good.
Damn it. But there's a smile on your face at the same time.
Yeah, you just can't help but be like, this guy.
And there's never been a better moment than when Rick Astley got rickrolled.
Oh, yes, that was
like
just hilarious. So that, I would say, was probably a pretty good snapshot of the 80s.
What's the 90s bring?
I feel like floofy hair and stuff were also pretty big in the 80s though, too. Perms and pet rocks. That was another
hair
good
metal
one.
Didn't mention hair metal at all.
Yeah, it doesn't. This doesn't actually mention any of it, surprisingly. Whoever made this list left some things out.
They had a limit that they could bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
So what's the 90s bring?
Oh, the 90s brings quite a bit. Full House, R.I.P. Bob Saget. Sister, the paint bucket candy.
I don't know that.
Yeah, you don't know that. It's like it's like a lollipop that's like looks like a paint stick, and it comes with a little paint bucket, and you dip it in. It's kind of like a knockoff Fun Dip.
Paint bucket? No, I don't know that. I know Fun Dip.
You could see it right if you look at the screen.
I stopped watching your stream so I wasn't spoiled.
Ah.
Okay, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah. All right. You didn't realize that you liked it. You knew about it.
Dumped those right out of my mind.
Yep. Yeah. Music wise, I mean, it just filled with pop, rap, alternative, techno, like just a ton of one-hit wonders. Yeah. I mean, there was just
the 80s was full of
grunge
wonders too, but yeah, the 90s really carried on this tradition.
Bleached hair.
Yeah. Frosted tips.
Tattoos. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the late 90s, but yeah.
Regrettably, I did that. Late 90s, early 2000s.
Josh, regret nothing. Those frosted tips were gorgeous.
So when we first started seeing SUVs make their appearance. Yep. Piercings. Ooh. Game Boys, which that makes sense because that was when Pokemon came out, and obviously there's Game Boys before, but Pokemon is what really made the Game Boy craze.
Why weren't home video game consoles brought up before now? Like the Game Boy wasn't start of video games. Yeah.
No, but I guess if it wasn't, I mean, you think back to it, it's just wasn't accepted as much or something that people really, latched onto as much. I mean, you think about like your brother is probably the closest thing, and even though he played him, like he doesn't like love them. I feel like we're the 90s group was the first one to like grow up with video games.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Like at that point, video games were just like a cool thing that some people had. It wasn't like this big mainstream community type thing.
No.
Because we didn't have a ton of like IPs that were Americanized. I don't feel like as much. I feel like them like renaming Pocket Monsters to Pokemon and like pushing it.
Wow. What? When did Mario and Zelda come out? These were
for the original Nintendo.
These were mainstream hits.
Yeah, but they hold nostalgia and people still love them, but I don't feel like it was as big as it was. Like, if you ask people your brother's age how many of them had a Nintendo, I don't think that rate would be anywhere near if you ask people our age that had a Game Boy.
Right, but I think if you ask people my brother's age who had a Nintendo, they would remember much better than who had a Game Boy for us. Like they were
possibly.
They were cultural phenomenons. Super Mario Brothers came out in 1985 for the NES.
Yeah.
I mean, the NES, like you could say that. You could say what you're saying for the Commodore, right? Like these or the Atari, like these came out and people had them and people sort of knew about them, but the NES hit people's homes. People knew people who had an NES, who had Super Mario Brothers and Legend of Zelda and they would go over there, and their first experience with video gaming was going over to their friend Greg's house, who had the only NES in the neighborhood, and playing it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just funny that this kind of counts the Game Boy as the first mainstream video game console.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, I just think it, because it was portable and Pokemon was on
that's
it.
for sure.
It just hit a whole new audience. I mean, you have to think about it too. Like, look at the upsurgent, like, oh God, talk. Look at the uprising when Pokemon Go came out.
Yeah.
Like, just the world shook when that game came out. Like, just the reach to that, and that, I feel like most of that started on Game Boy Color. Just like, obviously, just people that are younger didn't start with it, but the idea of the starters, you know, Pikachu, Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, obviously Pikachu only in yellow, but like that's synonymous. And I feel like the what did you play, red, yellow, blue? It's just,
you know, it's funny,
huge thing.
I sort of discounted this. Like, I didn't think about Pokemon when we were talking about the 90s Game Boy, right? I guess technically Pokemon came out in the 90s, like 98.
Yeah.
But it's funny that, like, my conception of culture is maybe like 1 or 2 years lagged. Like, to say that Pokemon Red and Blue were part of 90s culture kind of misrepresents them, because Pokemon hit like in the turn of the century and a couple of years after. Like, I don't know if I know. I don't know if I knew anybody who had a Game Boy in 1999.
I did.
Okay, fair enough.
I did. My cousin did. Like,
maybe
that was all I wanted.
This is just my chronological memory messing with me.
Yeah. No, I had a yellow Game Boy Color with Pokemon Red that I got for Christmas, and I played the absolute shit out of that. And then I got Pokemon Silver when that came out, and I played that as well. And then I played them all the way up till I probably somewhere at the DS. I took a break and didn't really play any.
Came back with X and Y. We played X and Y quite a bit.
Yeah, and then stopped again.
Yeah, that's true. So what happens with the 2000s? For sure, I know that in the 2000s, the aughts, the rise of fandoms happened.
Yep, that is definitely a truth. We had grills started to become a pretty prevalent thing. Like
teeth grills?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you like Little John and like all that style of I would probably associate it maybe with like Atlanta, like that rap scene.
Okay, yeah.
That came out. Flash mobs.
Oh my God.
Started to become a thing. Heelys.
Fuck yes. I want a pair of Heelys. Are Heelys still around? I will be Googling this while you go on.
Yes, they definitely still are. The auto-tune phase started to become popular in the
thank you, Cher.
Mid to late 2000s. T-Pain style stuff.
Cher.
Huh?
Yeah.
Cher, yep. Taylor Swift came out and started dominating. Like, speaking of fandom, you had people like her, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry.
Oh my God, I can get a Beavis and Butthead pair of Heelys. This is the rest of the episode.
Yeah, you're just gonna order Heelys.
SpongeBob Heelys. Oh my God, they have light up Heelys.
We had the first iPod come out in October of 2001. So that really puts a stamp on it for me. Can remember them little original iPods.
Oh, yeah.
The rounded corners.
Rip in peace.
Pixar released Finding Nemo in 2003. Facebook launched in 2004. YouTube was created in 2005, and the first iPhone came out in 2007.
That's incredible.
So quite some milestones there. We saw Crocs start to be a thing. Razor scooters were the early 2000s. MySpace, Dance Dance Revolution, Silly Bands, Revolution. Yep, and Guitar Hero.
Okay.
So we saw quite the differentiating slope we have going from the 20s to the 2000s and what things were. But I think I think that's probably a good spot to end my topic for
Okay.
today. That was quite the ride we had going. There was a lot there to
It
unpack.
sure was. I'm still stuck on the Heelys.
Yeah, you really want a pair. I mean,
dude, a pair of Heelys.
Your birthday is coming up.
A pair of Heelys is only $60.
Treat yourself.
It's $60.
Treat yourself.
Man.
Even if you only wore them to roll yourself out to get your own mail, it'd be worth it.
God. Rugrats prints.
But who are we kidding? You'd be rolling all through the house with them.
These would be my work shoes. I would roll through people's lawns to deliver their mail.
Can you imagine if you had like Heelys with like shocks in them, like they were?
Wow.
You had raised Heelys with shocks on them and like a monster truck, a big monster truck tire, so you can
bike tires on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It basically just turns into like wheelchairs for your feet, or as we like to call them, roller skates. But
yeah, that's basically roller skates. Welcome to the 19th century.
Yep.
All right. So let's go ahead and my topic this week is click. What comes to your mind when you hear the word click, Josh?
I mean, first thing that comes to mind for me is either keyboard or mouse.
Yeah.
The gamer in me.
Yeah. I went there. This was one of my options for this word. But I went with the Adam Sandler movie Click. That's where my that's where my mind went.
Okay. I see that.
You sure do. Hopefully you had a few minutes to think about this.
I did. I got a good little.
All right.
Good little breakdown.
Then let's do it. I'm starting with Adam Sandler movies. Click is an Adam Sandler, and that's.
It certainly is.
It certainly is. So we're gonna start with the best and worst Adam Sandler movies, and sort of expand from there in that vein. Best Adam Sandler movie. Do you want to start, or do you want me to go first?
I'll let you lead it, because I'm interested to hear your pick.
I had a tough time choosing the best. I was sort of up in the air between Happy Gilmore and Uncut Gems. So I'll just cheat my own question and do both of them. Happy Gilmore is so
I'm
good.
Surprised.
It's like one of the most quotable movies of all time. But man, Uncut Gems is good.
I was surprised that made it into your list.
Really?
I liked it, but it didn't blow me away.
I don't know. I like actors sort of breaking their own mold that they sort of made for themselves,
Yeah, that does make sense.
So yeah, I like that. And Adam Sandler is, if he went the Tom Hanks route, he could have been one of the better dramatic actors. Also, I think.
Yeah.
But he sort of stuck in his own lane for a long time.
I think he was just so focused on taking care of like his friends.
Yeah, that's basically it.
I know.
I looked at a lot of like best and worst Adam Sandler movie lists for this, and what was the one that someone said was indicative of his thought process? Was it Mr. Deeds? They ranked it as one of the worst Adam Sandler movies, which I disagree with.
How dare they? Yeah, that is one of his better ones. I love that. Mr.
It's good,
Deeds.
but it's
I like feet.
Their criteria was like very particular. They were trying to make a point in this article, but their point was like Mr. Deeds basically shows what is important to Adam Sandler. It's money. If you come into like a big pile of money, like what do you do to keep it? And what do you do? Like how do other people try to take advantage of you? And like this is the most important thing that you have to think about. So yeah, I get their point, but Mr. Deeds is good to me too. And that's what you're saying.
I could never
taking care of his friends. Like there's a certain point where he just had David Spade and Kevin James in his movies because they were his friends.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, not even just that. I mean, think about the casts in all of his beginning movies. Grandma's Boy, Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, Waterboy, Little Nicky, Mr. Deeds. Like you see the cast translate throughout all of those. Yeah. There's crossovers in all of those movies with all of his friends.
That's really funny. The first thing he said was Grandma's Boy. And I'm like, wait, but that is a Happy Madison production. So yeah. It's got Peter Dante.
He's not in it.
That's right.
But it's got everybody in there. So for me, I struggled with this to pick a top one, and I think I had to go the same route as you. Surprisingly enough, 2 sports movies, The Waterboy
Yep.
and The Longest Yard have to be my top ones. I mean, The Waterboy is just nostalgic. Everybody knows it. It's just that
another one of his
fun-loving
most
movie.
quotables.
Yeah. But The Longest Yard, I just feel like that was a really well done remake. The cast of that movie was phenomenal. He plays the character part really well. It's like he's funny, but he's not like goofy funny. You know what I mean? He still has to be kind of serious.
Yeah.
For the role. It's just one of my favorite movies that he's a part of. So I couldn't really pick between the two. But yeah, Waterboy to me is more quotable than Happy Gilmore.
Okay, sure.
But
I don't know.
That's only because
get in the hole, you know, like
and all this Shooter McGavin stuff and like.
Yep. I still do that.
I don't. It may be that I've seen Waterboy a lot more, so that also could play into it.
That's probably what makes someone's most favorite Adam Sandler movie is which one they've seen the most. Like if you've seen Happy Gilmore the most, and you get like the shooter, like the dual finger guns. Well, I still do that.
I feel like he's one of the few actors and like production teams where you get a ton of value rewatching the movies a bunch. Like there's so much stuff that I pick up on rewatching them that is like overall funny in the moment, but it's even more funny if you take the time to like break down that one specific part and like separate it, how funny it is. So
I get that.
Just great. So many good movies.
So for worst Adam Sandler movie, I was back and forth between a few for this. I think my bottom 3 were The Longest Yard, Click, and Don't Mess with the Zohan.
I can get behind that.
And that's where I settled on. Like that movie was it's the beginning of the era of Adam Sandler cash grab movies, right? This is the worst movie that Adam Sandler's made that I have actually seen, to be clear. I have not actually watched Grown Ups or
Grown Ups is funny.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you take it for what it is, it's funny.
So the way that I'm familiar with Grown Ups is through the podcast The Worst Idea of All Time, where they watch Grown Ups 2 once a week, every week for 52 weeks.
Oh,
and review it, watch and review it every week.
What an idea.
If you haven't listened to this podcast before, it is primo podcast. The first season they do is Grown Ups 2. The second season they do is Sex in the City 2. Oh god. And that one is brutal to listen to. Like watching a movie and reviewing it every week just like sends you through this nightmarish.
I feel like you have to start hating it.
They don't even start hating it necessarily. Like they start hating Sex in the City because there's just so little there. But grown-ups do. Like it's funny the way that they end up watching these movies. Like they watch the extras. They come up with whole backstories for these extras that are just there. And it's like it's such a cool concept that that's a podcast recommendation that I would give to anybody. The Worst Idea of All Time. It's a couple.
I'm gonna have to check
There's a couple of New Zealand comedians, Guy Montgomery and Tim Batt, and they're funny. But yeah, that's where I went with the worst is away from Grown-ups because I just haven't seen it. Like I know it from these guys who hate it because they had to watch it every week. But Zohan is just.
Yeah, that. I didn't even think about that only because that would probably be my number 2. But the number 1 is just so bad that I couldn't overlook it, and I doubt you've even seen it.
What is
it's called Going Overboard.
Oh, yeah, okay. I know of it.
It is horrible. Yeah. It is absolutely atrocious.
It was Adam Sandler's first movie.
Yeah. It was just not. No. I remember watching it and just being like, why?
Yeah.
Like he should be, if he had one wish, it should be to remove that from his catalog. It's that bad.
Wow. Maybe I'll have to watch it one day. Okay. Is it bad enough that it circles back around? You know, like if you watch Birdemic or something, it's bad enough that it circles back around to being good?
No.
Okay.
No. Just lives in a steaming pile of shit.
Brutal.
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, like he definitely has some like borderline cheesy, corny movies, but even those are funny in their own right. This one was just bad.
I'll have to watch it sometime.
I watched it when I was doing my whole make my way through all these different movies time period.
Yeah,
when I watched like the entire like top 500 IMDb, I happened to come across that and be like, hey, this was his first movie. Let me watch it. Nope.
Wow.
I regret.
Yeah, that's brutal. So
do not recommend.
The next place that my mind went thinking about this topic is, you know, this is where it starts, but like Adam Sandler is such a divisive actor, right? Like some people would call him the most overrated actor. Some people would call him an underrated actor, depending on where you see him, what your expectation is, whatever. So that's where my mind went next is, you know, underrated and overrated actors. I think we all have our opinions on, you know, this actor or actress that is overrated and underrated. So that's where my mind went next. And it immediately started with an overrated actor for me, and that's Kevin Hart.
Yeah, I can see that.
As a comedian, he's okay, but like his whole thing is that he's loud and he's short. Like all of his comedy roles are he's loud and he's short, and then he's in movies with Rock the Dwayne Johnson, and you know he just keeps getting roles, and I don't get the like audience appeal of him at all, but I keep seeing him pop up and every single time
because I mean he's just funny. He is funny.
Yes.
And like no, I mean I would say the interactions in the movie, like the movies he's in, always make me laugh.
Okay,
but it doesn't make them good movies.
Okay.
Like, am I mad that I wasted my time? No. Do I want to rewatch it again? No, except for one. There's one movie that he's in, and it's with Will Ferrell. Get Hard. That's the only one that like I thoroughly enjoy his role in and could watch it over and over again because it's hilarious. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but
no, I haven't. I have seen barely any Kevin Hart movies.
Yeah,
like
I would take a watch of that. I think might give you some perspective at least.
That's an interesting, different way to come at this question, though. Is what actor in a good movie makes the movie bad? You know?
Yeah.
Like Kevin Hart's an actor that I don't understand why he keeps getting roles. And that's what makes him overrated to me. But another way to say overrated is this person comes into a movie that you have otherwise liked and ruins it.
Yeah. See, I think for him, it's like it confuses you that he keeps getting roles, but he keeps getting roles that are perfect for what he can do.
Yeah.
Like none of his roles ask him to do more than what you should expect from him, which is be loud
and be short.
Say some off-color stuff, be short.
Yep.
And everything's just one giant maze of going back to laughing at him over something.
Sure.
Like everything, for the most part, with Kevin Hart is self-deprivation for his comedy. So the movies are kind of the same way, I would say.
So what about you, an overrated actor?
Overrated actor. This is probably going to be a hot take.
I'm in for it.
I'm prepared for some backlash. James Franco.
I don't think that's a hot take. Not these days, at least.
Yeah. How's the best way I can put how I feel about James Franco? He's just there.
Okay,
He's
sure.
Background furniture as an actor.
You know, it's funny.
There's not a single movie that I think he makes better.
Yeah.
There's no memorable roles other than some lines out of Pineapple Express. But even that role is like, like none of his roles make me want to watch the movie again because of him.
Yeah, I get that. It's funny. There's a couple like common critiques that people levy at actors that they think are overrated. Because I looked at a couple lists of overrated actors for this, and it's either they always play the same role or anybody else could do this.
Yeah,
you know, like that's the criticism that I saw of Kevin Hart is he always plays the same role. People levied that at George Clooney and Tom Cruise, and
Yeah.
they.
But I mean, it's like if you say that, I feel like you have to do the same thing for the most part. For like most of the time, Adam Sandler played the same role. Most of the time,
I've seen these people.
Jim Carrey played the same.
I've seen
role.
all these people on
mean?
these lists. Yeah. So this is what I'm saying is there's either that or there's anybody else could do this, which I've seen levied at Chris Pratt and James Franco and whoever else. There's very few people who sort of overcome those two criticisms.
I struggled with this too because I feel like I don't know if it's stuck in the fact that he hasn't gotten an opportunity to play a character that allows him to transform a role where it's memorable, or if he just can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know if it's because of the writing for the jobs that he's taken and they weren't meant to make him shine, or and he's just stuck in that loop because he does it well and it is funny, but it's not like memorable. It's just he's just there. And I wonder if
what's funny,
he's stuck, or if it's just he's not
the role that I've seen James Franco in that like I couldn't see another person in is the thing that he ended up getting canceled for. There's a movie called Palo Alto, where he plays just there's a creep. He wrote and directed this movie and cast himself as the creep that hits on the underage girl.
Oh.
So like, okay, little on the nose. And that is the one role that I've seen him in that I don't think anybody else could play because he was playing it so true to life.
Yeah.
But
that is very fair.
Yeah, it's weird.
When how old that movie was?
Palo Alto?
Like when did he make it?
I don't know. The teens, maybe?
Okay, I see it. Yeah, 2013.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm just pulling.
It was a little weird. He was set in his ways at that point.
Yeah. Okay. I remember seeing
it. Was an indie movie. It flew under the radar, but Nicole showed it to me.
No, yeah, but it was one of the first times I saw Emma Roberts.
Oh yeah, Emma Roberts is in it.
Yeah. That was one of the first times that I remember seeing her. Okay.
And the counterpoint to this question, overrated actors, is underrated actors, right? So I think is a hot take right at this very moment because his stock is coming up. But he was underrated for a long time. Robert Pattinson. He was the Twilight guy. Yeah, people hated him literally for that one role. But if you ever saw him in any of his roles, even slightly after that, Water for Elephants, he's a great actor, and he just was never given his due. These days, he's really coming up with the Batman, and he had that movie, The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe. So people are really coming around on Robert Pattinson, but he had to do a lot of work for a long time to break out of the Twilight rut.
Oh yeah, typecast himself beyond belief.
I don't even know if it's typecasting, because like typecasting is a specific thing, right? Jason Statham typecast himself as the action guy.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson never typecast himself as like a leading man or
I guess he just had that.
People just hated him because of Twilight.
Well, it's because it was just such a phenomenon.
It was such a phenomenon. It was so
he became that. It's like how everybody sees Christian Bale as Batman. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same. Like, because, and granted, this is much later in his career, but you ask somebody, the general public, about Christian Bale, they'll either one not know who it is, or they'll say Batman, or I guess they could be a big movie person and they'll know about his stuff like The Machinist and all the other movies he was in before. But I feel like that's his role. That's what he was known for.
Yeah,
like Angelina Jolie, the Tomb Raider.
I don't know. These are bad examples you're choosing.
I don't think so.
Christian Bale's in so much stuff. Like I knew him from The Prestige and The Fighter before Batman.
But you knew them, but those aren't big, not in comparison.
The Prestige was huge.
These are like, I wouldn't say it's anywhere near
Batman.
not
near Batman. That's I
what
get
I'm
what you're
saying.
saying. But like Michael Keaton also isn't known for Batman. He's known for Beetlejuice or Multiplicity. Like he played Batman. People know that he played Batman, but I don't think he's known for it. The same way that, I don't know. We should separate ourselves from Batman. Every Batman that I'm thinking of is big enough to play Batman. They didn't get big from playing Batman. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes, but
I
it's not about getting big from playing it. I'm saying that's what everybody sees them as. Like after Christian Bale was Batman, that's what everyone sees him as. Because it's so big, it's bigger than your normal movie. It's like a household thing. Everyone has seen Batman. It's like it's the same thing with Twilight. It's the same thing with What's Her Face and Hunger Games. Like they're just these huge phenomenons.
Yeah.
And that's what you get associated with.
Every other, except for Angelina Jolie, every other example you've brought up is a person who has become big from the role they got. Jennifer Lawrence became a superstar from Hunger Games, where Christian Bale didn't become a superstar from Batman. He became Batman by being a superstar. No, but he became a household
name.
Same with George Clooney. George Clooney became Batman from being a superstar. It's a weird example to choose is my only it's nitpicking. I'm nitpicking your thought process. I get what you're saying. I do. It's just, I don't know. Angelina Jolie also was huge from other stuff. If I think I don't particularly like Angelina Jolie. I never got people's obsession with her.
I don't either. She almost made my overrated.
Yeah. I get that. But again, her major roles, she had this streak of weirdly mainstream roles, but the not so mainstream roles, her weird roles are all really good. Thinking backwards, in Eternals, she was really good. And then in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, she's really good.
Yep, I like that.
And then Girl Interrupted is really where she got her break. She's incredible in that. But then she got I don't know, she got typecast for sure as the hot girl.
Yeah, as the hot action woman. I mean, you got Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is good. You have the Tomb Raiders. You have Wanted,
Gone in 60 Seconds.
All these movies. Yeah, all of these style of.
I get what you're saying.
Movies. I just feel like it's kind of you just have these roles Angelina Jolie is Tomb Raider.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's the same way with Robert Pattinson. That was his thing. He is Edward.
It's so funny though, because he got so much hate from that, and he tried to do the Edward Norton thing where he tried to break out of that role.
Yeah.
But people hated Twilight so much that it took him this long to really break out of that.
See, I feel like Twilight gets the same kind of hate that Nickelback gets.
No.
Where it's just half of the people it's just cool to hate it, so that's why
I will push back on that, because Nickelback is moderately good. Nickelback at least makes good music. It just got overplayed to the point where people hated it, and Twilight is actually bad and was just riding on the popularity of the books. So it's different. I'm sorry. I'm being very critical of your takes, but
But did you read the books?
No.
Well, so that's just somebody else's opinions.
My wife did though, and she I think comes to the same conclusion. I've talked to her about it a bunch, and the movies are massively cheesy. They are not well done, and people only they're incredibly campy.
Guess what though? Here's my saying to that. That's what makes them big movies.
Yeah, things are popular because they're popular, aren't they?
Yeah. You think it was made that way accidentally? Absolutely not. That's the thing. I think I can separate myself more from everything and think out of it because I have to for work.
Yeah.
Whereas you get stuck in the how you see the world instead of how the majority of the world sees it, because you function on a different wavelength.
Well,
than the majority of the population.
I've had this and I've had this reflex before where I'm well, so many people like this and I don't. There's got to be a reason that they like it and I don't. So must be something wrong with me, and then I'll go and investigate it and figure out why it's good in the first place. But I don't see anybody doing it with Twilight. I
just think the reason it was so big is it was easily digestible.
Okay.
It didn't take itself too serious. It was a romance. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
I would say that's one of its downfalls, though, is that it did take itself too seriously.
I don't know if you can do that and still be like
The,
cheesy.
the tone of that movie is so serious. Like there's that scene where, you know, they're in the woods and he's like, just say it. She's like, you're a vampire.
Oh yeah, it's a soap opera.
Right, but that's I think
mean,
what I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. It's appealing to that audience.
That's a weird
soap operas.
Yeah.
Again, we're big for a
that's
reason.
a weird
like,
phrase, I think.
we may not want to watch that, but that's what people
Yep.
want to watch.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
we're such a small portion of the population, people that think, you know, more about like the art of it, and
Yeah.
a lot of people just don't care.
Yeah.
If it occupies their time and they're chill, they like it.
Yeah.
Like that's just that's just how it rolls. Yeah. So I think that's like why that was so popular, and because every girl was into it, a lot of boyfriends got pushed into watching it, and they didn't like that, and that's where a lot of the hate comes from.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that's why he's so known for it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just this phenomenon. I mean, you couldn't get away from Twilight.
But he has really broken out in a way.
I gotta give the other two movies a watch. I know we had this discussion not too long ago, so I will watch them. I don't have the same feelings towards him, but I'm willing to watch those other two movies and see if it changes my mind.
Well, you said you tried to watch Tenet. Tenet, I think, is one of his strongest roles, but you got caught up in the Christopher Nolan-ness of it.
Yeah.
So I get that. Like,
it's hard for an actor to play a good role when the movie is just weird. I mean, it just wasn't. There was very little character development in the movie. I mean, it was just all over the place.
I guess. Yeah. So.
But I do want to watch those other two.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He's someone that I think the industry has had their eye on for a long time. If he would get buried under Twilight or rise above it, I think he is rising above.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm all for
How about your underrated actor?
I struggled more with this than I did with the overrated.
Yeah.
Because there's two that, or I was like, yes, perfect. Like I can pick between these two, and I couldn't narrow it down. And then while I was thinking of those two, I thought of a third.
Okay.
So I will start with the one that I think you might push back against the most. I think he's just getting a lot of scrutiny and stuff right now because of a role.
Okay.
Jared Leto. I think he is underrated.
I think I'm with you on that.
I mean, Requiem for a Dream, he's great in. You know, he just has a bunch of cool roles. He's getting, shit on because of Morbius or whatever it was called.
He gets shit on for a lot of his roles. It's interesting.
Yeah. And then, like, people don't even realize, too, that he was 30 Seconds to Mars. The band was him. Like, he's just a super talented guy.
It's interesting. I saw him on a lot of overrated actors lists, too, though. He really...
I don't think so.
I think he really embodies the actor who is simultaneously overrated and underrated.
Yeah, I can...
Like, he is
okay
overrated. He gets these big roles that he's not suited for. Morbius and the Joker. But then he gets roles that are really sublime, like Rayon in Dallas Buyers Club or Angel Face in Fight Club. Maybe he should just only be in movies that have the word club in them.
Yeah, no, I mean, he had the role in American Psycho.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the thing. Is like, I feel like people just look past some of those older things.
Yeah.
The newer stuff, I would say he's getting caught up in the commercialized Hollywood.
He hits and he misses. People really liked House of Gucci recently for the sort of campiness of it. It's not a good movie, but it's a fun watch, is my understanding of it. And he's in that playing a really campy role. But then he takes Morbius. And, before that, like, the cycle was Dallas Buyers Club, and then he takes the Joker. He just hits big, and then he misses big.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hate him as the Joker.
I don't watch DCEU movies.
Yeah, so you didn't even watch Suicide Squad?
I haven't watched Suicide Squad or Justice League or nothing.
I just feel like he fits that role, because I'm not going into it expecting the same Joker that's from The Dark Knight and
Joker's
everything.
Joker's so many things.
I knew what I'm jumping into.
Yeah. Joker's so many things.
Yeah, like I knew what I was getting into, and I think he does a good job portraying that. And I think he's getting a lot of hate, but I think the most of it is not his acting ability for Morbius. I think it's just how it's written.
Yeah, I don't see many people hating on Jared Leto personally for Morbius.
People just hating on
Morbius. People are hating on Sony. People are hating on the writing. Like I've seen several clips of Matt Smith dancing shirtless. Like, this is one of the most memorable moments of the movie. It's not Jared Leto doing anything cringy or anything. It's this beloved actor who they made dance shirtless, who like transforms for a second. It's like so incredibly cheesy.
Yeah.
But
so he was my wild card one that I thought of while I was doing it. But my first two were Idris Elba.
Okay.
I think he's underrated, and I think there's a lot of big name roles that he gets overlooked for that he could be, and I would love to see him as a Bond eventually. Yeah. I could really see him in that. Or I don't know if you happen to see there's a show called Lupin on Netflix.
Lupin.
It's Lupin.
Yeah.
But it's if you watched it?
Yeah. A bit of it.
Yeah. So like I really enjoy that, and I think if they made movies out of that series, I think he would be a very good fit for that as well.
Why wouldn't the guy that plays Lupin in the series be a good fit for the movies?
Because I would think that they would want a big, somebody more recognizable to play him.
Yeah, I guess if they're making them English. I guess if they're making them in English.
Yeah, they obviously would be. I mean, where the big U.S. is like the huge market for.
I don't know. This dude was
entertainment.
This guy was so good. Who is he? Omar Sy.
He was really good.
He's so good.
That's one of the very few shows that like the dubbing is not very good.
Oh yeah.
The content was so good that I had no problem getting through it. That's saying something.
It's funny that you would say. I get what you're saying. Idris Elba is like overlooked for a lot of things. It would be nice if he were a Bond, but I also get the production company's argument against Idris Elba. He's a little too. You know what? I actually don't know if I was just going to speak up my ass. I see him as a little too old for Bond.
I don't.
How old is he?
He's born in 1972.
And how old is Daniel Craig?
Let me see. Daniel Craig.
Yeah, because Daniel Craig
1968. So he is
right? So they're
4 years younger.
They're of a cohort.
Daniel Craig. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is I get their argument against Idris Elba. Like Daniel Craig aged out of the Bond role.
Yeah, I just don't get that. I don't think he looks anywhere near as old. I think he has the look where he can hide behind the salt and pepper goatee, and it makes him look like he just has salt and pepper at a younger age.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I also don't think he would look as old if he was clean shaven.
Who's the guy that I've been seeing people want to be the next Bond? Frig. What's his name? He was in The Green Knight. He was Gawain in The Green Knight. Dev Patel. He would be a good Bond. Did you watch that movie, by the way? The Green Knight? It's about
The Green Knight. No, I don't think I did.
It's about Sir Gawain from the Court of Camelot. So it's a an Arthurian story, but it is one of the weirdest movie that I've ever seen. In a good way in some ways, but it's just
I could definitely see him. I could get behind him being the next Bond. You'd be good. Yeah, and then some people are gonna say he's overrated. I still think he's underrated. Tom Hardy. I think there's just so many good roles that he's in.
I think Tom Hardy is exactly well rated.
I don't know. I see so many people that just don't care for him, or
I think he falls into the pitfall that Jared Leto fell into in his early career. People say that Jared Leto's overrated because he just tries too hard. Like he plays too many roles. He puts himself too far into it. And I think Tom Hardy's the same way. He's like trying too hard to expand his range almost.
I think that it's not that. I think that he never was able to get those movies before.
He's been in some pretty big.
I don't know. His first big one, I would say, is Inception.
I knew about him before Inception.
Yes, but I'm saying big. That's the thing. It can't be like you knew about him. Because you're, again, more studious about people.
I don't think that I am.
I do.
Like, especially not about knowing who people are. Like, there's a big up and coming actor that I don't know his name. Like Englorp is what I say, but I don't know his actual name. You know who I'm talking about? The kid that was in the West Side Story, the new West Side Story.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know. I don't know his name, but I know.
It's some just mash of syllables, and Engler. But I don't.
Engler.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not plugged in to the pipeline. If I know about someone, they've probably been popular for a little while. I didn't know about Zendaya until she was popular, like, and I feel like this is how I am about Tom Hardy. Like,
I just want, where did, my thing is, what did you know him for before Inception? I mean, that was his big, I mean, he had a small part in Black Hawk Down.
You know what? Great point. This is a great point, actually, because literally I'm looking at his IMDb. The thing that I knew him from before was Bronson.
Yeah.
Bronson
which is like, it's not a huge movie.
I feel like Bronson was pretty big at the time, though.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I can't see it being like a huge one.
Yeah, like it wasn't a huge grossing movie. It wasn't nominated for any awards. I don't know why I even knew about this movie.
Me neither, to be honest with you.
Oh wait, no, awards. 3 wins. Oh god, I hate IMDb's awards page.
Yeah.
I mean, he was nominated for Best Actor for this movie.
Yeah.
Maybe this, you know what? Maybe this was during the time when I was like, well, the Academy Awards really tell people what the best stuff is.
Yeah.
And I started paying attention to that, and I'm like, and then Crash won something, and I was like, okay, maybe not.
You didn't like Crash?
It wasn't a best picture.
It was very good for the time frame it came out.
Okay, hold on. What are other movies that were nominated at the time?
In 2004?
What was
right?
78, 2006. I don't know. I don't actually know. I would have to look at what movies came out in 2006 better than this list, because the list of nominees was Crash, Brokeback Mountain, Capote, Good Night and Good Luck, and Munich. Which, I don't know, not a great list of movies, but I know that people hate Crash because it won Best Picture this year, and there were apparently better movies that came out that year, but I don't know them.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought Don Cheadle did a great job.
It was fine. I remember watching it and being like, okay, yeah, that was a movie. And then hearing that it won Best Picture, I'm like, really?
No, that's not surprising to me. I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's Oscar bait, but whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely not surprising to me. Yeah, that's the thing. I think Tom Hardy really started becoming more. Inception was probably that, and even that's kind of iffy. I feel like. I mean, his big role when everyone knew him was Spain. I mean, that's just 2012. Tom Hardy became a household name.
I guess The Warrior came out between Inception and Dark Knight Rises, so he was big in that. Yeah. That was actually a really big movie.
It was huge. Yeah, I was looking at it too. Yep. It's just not on the same scale. That's Dark Knight just reaches a whole different audience.
Yeah. He's not in a whole lot, right?
It's
right? He's very picky about his roles, this dude.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's in less than 25 roles since 2001. So in 25 he does one a year.
Not bad. Good dude.
And that's what I'm saying. He's got a lot. And then when I go through it, he has a lot of.
Got a lot of heavy hitters.
Yeah, Lawless is I love Lawless. It's one of my favorite movies. So good. And then also plays a factor into it too is him and Peaky Blinders.
Never.
I don't know if you've watched.
Never bothered.
You never watched it. He's in that and plays a phenomenal role in that show. So yeah, he would be my underrated.
Cool.
And I don't mean I don't think he gets I don't think that he doesn't get the roles underrated. I just mean that like he's not making. I don't think he gets technically enough credit as he deserves. Yeah. I think the roles that he gets and that he carries, he does a really good job for.
I mean, that's pretty much where I am with Robert Pattinson too. You know, it's
like Revenant was huge too. Afterwards, he got that.
Like
and though Venom.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to end with, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but my last question was going to be pigeonholed actors. I don't know if that term is offensive or anything. So, say actors that have become typecast, or people or actors who people think don't have the range that they actually have. My example for this, and I'm honestly not sure if he's going to be my pick, but my example is George Clooney, right? Like George Clooney.
He has so much
That's
talent.
what I'm saying. But
everyone sees him in that Ocean's 11.
People
role.
think of George Clooney as like the leading man, the man who doesn't really bring much personality to a role, but can be very dramatic or whatever. But like you see George Clooney in any Coen Brothers movies, like he has range. The Coen Brothers,
he's the man.
The Coen Brothers call George Clooney for a role, and I got to imagine his one question is, "Are you gonna make me look like an idiot?" And if the answer is yes, he takes the role. Like,
Brother Art Thou.
Exactly. Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
Burn After Reading.
Yeah.
Like, he's a goof, but because he looks the way that he looks, he gets typecast as the leading man.
Yeah.
And along the same lines, Brad Pitt is the same way. Like, he's a character actor.
Tom Cruise.
I think Tom Cruise gets Tom Cruise earned his action running man role thing.
Oh, he did.
You know what's funny? I just recently heard something about the Oprah incident, like Tom Cruise and the Oprah incident. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So there's this there's this idea that like Tom Cruise is crazy, right? Like he's just so over the top. He went on Oprah and he like jumped up and down on her couch like a madman, you know, screaming, trying to convince people about how much he loves Katie Holmes. But like that incident, which was apparently what made the studio that had him under contract drop him, was way more tame than people made it out to be. To put it in a more organized way, like the public backlash of this event made the studio drop. And at that point, he stopped doing his interesting roles. He stopped doing Risky Business or The Rain Man. And then he only did action roles after that.
Yeah, because he knew he could crush it.
And it's funny that's the thing that sort of pigeonholed Tom Cruise. After that, he stopped taking risky roles. He was just action man. He runs in every role. But
still crushing it though.
Oh yeah.
Look at the box office weekend. The new Top Gun.
Yeah. I didn't even know Top Gun was coming out this weekend. I drove past a movie theater and I was like, why are there so many people at the movie theater? It's such a nice weekend. I looked it up and Top Gun came out.
I'm surprised it's as big as it is.
It's funny. It's funny that he's one of the only like actors who actually draws a crowd anymore, you know? But besides Tom Cruise and The Rock, who is an actor that draws a crowd to the movie theater?
Kevin Hart.
Shut up.
It's true. Whether you liked it or not, it is true.
Okay. Hold on. Is it Kevin Hart or is it the Kevin Hart movies that The Rock is also in?
I think he draws a different portion.
Do people still know The Rock is The Rock?
Yeah, I mean, depends on whole like everybody that's going out and buying movies, like to the movies. Yeah, more than
he stopped using that name.
Like the younger kids,
hasn't he? But people still know him as The Rock. It's so funny.
I mean, everybody that's I would say 20 and older, knows him as The Rock. I don't know about younger than that necessarily. And I feel like even most of those, it was Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Rock the Dwayne Johnson. Yeah. But I guess I'm not picking an actor for this. Brad Pitt and George Clooney are such good examples that you can't really go much further. Like they're character actors that got stuck with a leading man face. Brad Pitt in Snatch is just so out of left field.
Yeah.
How about you? Yeah. Do you have someone like that? Someone that you think has a much larger range than they're given credit for?
I'm gonna say that. See, I don't have any proof. I just
We don't
feel
need
like
proof.
there's more to Jason. There's more to Jason Statham than we know. That's all I'm gonna say. I think he takes those roles because they're easy, and he's probably more worried about just enjoying his life.
Okay.
Like, I think acting for him is fun, but it's also a means to live the life the way he wants
Yeah,
it.
sure. I get that.
I think given the opportunity that he could dominate some roles. I'm not saying he's doing comedy, but he could definitely dominate some other roles, I think.
Yeah, he has tried comedy roles, hasn't he? And they haven't worked out very well.
No.
So, yeah, I get what you're saying on that. But yeah, I think that's he seems like he has more depth, doesn't he?
Yeah, if you ever watch any interviews and stuff with him, like, you can just tell he's super intelligent, and like he's more than that physique and attitude that he gives in movies. He's just like there's more there. He's not just let it roll.
Yeah.
He's just the go-to for those movies. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, after Guy Ritchie cast him in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then Snatch, or vice versa, I don't actually know.
Mm-hmm. I think it was Lock, Stock, first. Yeah.
But those two movies really just solidified what is Jason Statham.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a shame. But then there's actors that really break out of that, right? Like character actors. Some of the best actors out there are just character actors.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of understanding to be able to always be funny or always be that guy, like Jim Carrey.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just you have to be able to.
I have heard people say that comedic actors are some of the best actors, period.
Some of the best and some of the worst, I feel like.
Well, sure. Yeah. If they're
so
if they're really stuck in like the like hamming it up role, like they can be pretty bad. But comedic actors have to have a sense of what their audience is going to feel at any given point in time. Like comedy is an interactive art form. If you're a stand-up, you are on stage reacting to the audience laughing at or not laughing at. And so actors like Jim Carrey, or other actors who have like this comedic timing. Tom Hanks was a comedic actor. Bruce Willis was a comedic actor. And to bring it all the way back to the beginning of my topic, Adam Sandler was a comedic actor. And these are all people who have serious dramatic chops because they understand the timing and the effect that they are supposed to have on the audience.
Yeah, I get that. I was just thinking too, it's like Adam Sandler kind of falls into the same thing as Jason Statham for me, like how I feel about that. Like they're both typecast, but I feel like they both did it to themselves. Like Adam Sandler knew what, like Happy Madison Productions, he knew what he wanted to make. You know what I mean? And if you see him, like he's the most normal, not rich dude there is. Like he's walking the streets in an oversized shirt, basketball shorts, some Jordans, and like carrying a bag of bread and drinking a juice, walking down the highway, like the sidewalk. Like he just did what he needed to do, and what he was fine with it.
I see Jason Statham's as a little less intentional, but I know less about Jason Statham. So like I know that Adam Sandler makes these movies because he wants to make them. And then he'll take a serious role every so often because he wants to do that. Steel Magnolias, or is Spanglish a serious role? I don't actually know. Or Uncut Gems. These are serious roles that he purposely took. Where I don't think Jason Statham ever takes roles that
I don't know if he gets offered them. I don't think he probably
does.
He's
Jason Statham. He could get a role in a comedy, in like an actual comedy, not like The Pacifier comedy. He could get a role just on his name. Or he could even audition.
But that's like more.
He may be,
you know what I'm saying?
He may be pridefully past that point, or his agents may not even bring those to him. But I think he could get other roles and actually try to break out. But
I just think he's comfortable. I just get that sense for him, like he's not.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing
being
at all.
Who I am, like understanding how nice it is to be comfortable, to coast in a career, like I can respect that. too. And I don't know, anything else you had to add to whatever we talked about? Best Adam Sandler movies, underrated, overrated actors, or pigeonhole?
Yeah, I actually have an on the spot question because I don't have an answer for it either, and so I'm gonna make you think of it while I think of mine. Who is a comedian or musician or athlete that has transferred or from a previous career into acting who you actually feel does a good job? So somebody that was famous from another portion of their life that takes a pledge into or dive into acting and does it well.
I don't have an answer off the top of my head.
It was a tough question. It's really making me think.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if there is anybody that's made that transition into like serious acting, not just like, haha, I'm in a small role. Like Snoop Dogg's in a ton of movies, but he's not an actor.
Yeah, he plays himself in a lot of stuff, right?
He plays himself. Yeah.
I'm like looking through some lists.
Right? I don't know of like a ton.
Yeah. I haven't seen enough of Lady Gaga's stuff to know if she's actually good.
I mean, she was decent in the one that everyone saw. What was it called? The one with Bradley Cooper.
A Star Is Born.
Yeah. She was good in that.
Aquafina.
Yeah. I would, thinking about it, I think I do have an answer, but it's kind of a cop-out answer because I just don't feel like a lot of people will think about it. But I mean, Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, that's kind of who I started thinking of too.
Like Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Yep. But I mean, he's carved quite the pathway for himself as an actor.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's probably the actual answer.
Yeah, I mean, like Ice Cube.
Yep.
I guess arguably isn't, bad. Yeah.
Oh, how about Ken Jeong?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was a practicing physician until Community.
Yeah. I didn't even think about him.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't famous before, but if you're just thinking about like actors who came from another successful career, like as Ken Jeong.
I'm checking to see if there's any. Jamie Foxx. It's also another one. I feel
that's
like
a good pick.
Yeah. He would probably have to be the one I would probably go with thinking about it.
Yeah. Because
he's so talented.
Yeah. Between him and Mark Wahlberg, like people think of them as actors now and not as musical artists.
Yep, which is crazy. Yeah, it's gotta be them.
Yep, I think so.
I can't think of anyone else that like takes a major role.
Yep. All right. Well, we better start wrapping this up.
Yeah, it's been quite the episode.
Sure has.
It's funny enough, we were talking about, hey, do you think this episode's going to be too short to this week?
Yeah, right.
Oh man. Well, we definitely like to acknowledge Josh Wardle, the creator of Wordle, and Freddie Meyer, creator of QotS, which our show is based around. You can find them on Twitter at QotS. If you enjoy our content or you play Wordle or QotS, donate a coffee. It helps him expand the offerings that QotS has, whether it be more achievements or accounts,
absolutely,
that kind of stuff.
And you can find us on our socials. On Twitter, we are at QORD on the Street, QUORD on the ST. On Instagram, we're at QORD on the Street. Spell it all out, though. YouTube, you can watch us over there if you're at QORD on the or whatever /QORD on the Street. If you're watching us over there, go ahead and like, subscribe, and give us a comment. And also, wherever you're listening to us, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Good Pods, whatever other platform you are able to, please leave us a review. We'd love to see it and tell us what we can do better or worse.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah, and that's more for short form stuff. If you have any suggestions or you want to reach out with something that's more long form, you can word on the street at gmail.com. Our website at some point will be quordonthestreet.xyz. I'm slowly working on that. And you can find us at our personal Twitters every day. You'll see us do our daily Wordle and post them on the main account, and normally interact as our mains. So you can find me at I'm Scuzzy, IMSKUZZEY.
And you can find me at V_C. Spell out the underscore. And with that, we'll just go ahead and sign off by asking you to get the cord